Not at all. Good morning. Hello.
Good morning.
Oh, there's a new feature. Check this out. Look at this, Jen. Hold on. Let's see if that... Jen, could you see that? It didn't give me that option with everybody, but it gave me that option with Jen to say hi, and then it said I waved at you. Did I wave at you? I don't know why it wouldn't just say, like, to wave in real life, but whatever.
Wave in real life?
Like, if I want to say hi to her, why wouldn't I just wave at her in real life?
What does that mean?
Well, like, she can see me, so if I wave like this, isn't that better than clicking a button and having it technologically wave? It was a pop-up. It had a pop-up and it waved at her with, like, a little computer hand or whatever. Yeah. I can't, Amanda. It didn't give me that option.
You outsourced waving.
I can wave like this at Amanda, but it only gave me that button on Jen. That was weird. I don't really understand
You
it.
need a button. You can wave at all times.
That's what I was asking.
I see.
That's what I was saying. Like, wouldn't it make more sense to just wave in real life than to have a button?
I would imagine it's an engagement thing where it's at a specific person using the whatever. I don't know.
It's weird.
You're right.
I would rather just wave with my hand. That's all I'm saying.
I agree with
Okay, let's make coffee. Hello, everybody who's ready for coffee. Coffee, 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 coffee. That was my coffee song. I know, it's weird. That was my coffee song. How did you feel about it? You're ready for bed? Apparently, Amanda, apparently. TikTok has designated Jen as the favorite of the live. That's super weird. TikTok was like, only Jen, no one else. So weird. We should go to Target. We're almost out of half and half of milk and creamer. Or do you want to go to Ralph's? Yeah. Okay. Hello. I'll allow it. Yeah.
No, that's not what I said.
No, not you. Amanda said that she'll allow Jen to be the favorite for the day. Because TikTok designated her the favorite. Hi, everybody. Apparently, Jen is the favorite of the day according to TikTok. Sorry for everybody else. If you'd like to be considered for the favorite for tomorrow, tell TikTok. Not me, apparently, because I didn't choose. I love Jen. She's great. Yeah. How do we get in touch with TikTok to get more people given that feature? I don't really know. But anyway, how's everyone doing and how do you take your coffee today? How are you taking your coffee this day of whatever day it is? On this, the day of the coffee. Tic-tac. That's what my mom calls it. I don't understand. I feel like she must be making a joke at this point. Is Mom in here? Mom, are you here? The reason I think so is because she's on TikTok. Happy birthday, Charles. And every single time she says to me something about TikTok, like, for example, why, Shira? She always writes tic-tac, even though she knows it's TikTok.
So, it's the same reason you call it, like, Facebook's the Facebook. So, like, using the name slightly wrong is a way to be a little more dismissive of it.
Okay, so she's being dismissive of it when she congratulates my accomplishments. You know what? That feels somehow very like an accurate description of what's happening.
I could be wrong.
Because she always does it when she's telling me that I've hit a new milestone on TikTok. She'll always say like, wow, you got 425,000 on the Tic Tacs.
There was an old football. You know who Bill Belichick is?
Well, yeah, now.
Oh,
The coach. Bill Belichick is the coach of the Patriots.
So he's like a coach of like what was a coach of, 20, 30 year old guys, right?
Uh-huh.
So, all, like, social media stuff. So whenever he did have to talk about any of that stuff,
Uh-huh.
he'd always say that he was completely wrong on purpose.
Weird.
Like he'd call like snap faces and like stuff like that, like just to like be as dismissive as possible.
Huh.
But I think it's just like a generational thing.
Yeah, maybe.
It's like,
Did Bill Belichick get fired?
um,
Yes.
he is not coaching the team this year.
He will not be coaching a team this year. Renee said, "Go Pats." Just kidding. I'm not a football fan, I swear. Good morning. I'm exhausted from the concert last night. What concert did you go to last night, Brittany? That's exciting. Oh, that's right. You went to Hozier. That's exciting. My dad has TikTok and he made a picture, a video, and doesn't know how he made it and uploaded it. That's really funny. Yeah, I don't know, Becca. I don't know. It's a solid maybe from me. I've never even seen her own TikToks in all the years that I have known this woman, which is many years. I don't know. What's that?
Someone said it's the funniest show on television.
What's the show?
I don't know.
Well,
They didn't say the name of it.
that's
It's like
inconvenient.
It is
How are
kind
you supposed to find out what the show is if they don't say the name?
I found it.
What is it?
Smiling Friends.
Does anyone know what Smiling Friends is? That's really funny, Naisa. You're like, what did you do here, sir? What's Smiling Friends?
It's a cartoon.
It was
on Adult
Slime,
Swim.
Brittany. On Adult Swim. Cartoon on Adult Swim. Yeah, you're right, Becca. It's not happening, right? Yes, we made slime last night. We made Scootaloo and Pretty Putty. I am your smiling friend. Am I your only smiling friend? I feel like Renee smiles a lot. And stuff. And things. Yes, it's a social worker's morbid dream. Oh, she knows it's a social worker's morbid dream.
What does that mean?
I don't know. Yeah, Shira smiles. Who smiles? I love you, coffee. Oh, yes, I do. I don't love any drink as much as you. When
you know, like
you're
a
not near
standard,
me,
large
I'm
fish
blue.
tank size.
I guess.
Like-
I mean, I can imagine in my mind. I wouldn't know the quantity if you told it to me.
This boy is eating.
That's a lot of strawberries.
It's an entire fish tank worth of strawberries in one go.
I feel like you might get sick.
I feel like that's bad for you.
I don't think you're supposed to eat that many strawberries in one sitting.
I don't need to eat anything like as
No.
much as that one sitting.
I think you could have a bowl of strawberries.
It's so much. Why?
Is there a reason? Is he trying to get sick? Is he? What's the story here?
No reason. No reason possible.
No reason, no story. You're a bit jaded. That's true, Becca. It's such a morbid show, but in our office, that stuff is real life, so we laugh at it because it's real. Oh, I guess it's a show like literally, about social workers, babe.
What?
Renee said that show, the Smiling Show, is about social workers.
In what way?
It's like it takes place. No, okay, no, just kidding. No, it's not. No, she's correcting me. No, I'm wrong. Okay, back it up.
Like weird aliens with lots of hands and stuff.
Okay. Some kid is eating a fish tank full of strawberries.
What?
Well, Becca asked who is eating all the strawberries.
Oh, yeah, some kid.
And when we say kid, we mean like, looks like a teenager, right?
Oh, he was definitely in his 20s. But
Okay, someone in his 20s, not like a kid
can't
kid.
tell anymore if we're old.
Okay, Renee's gonna explain the show to us later, not on live.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe it's something that gets flagged on TikTok.
Well, make it PG and let's hear now.
Renee, he demands you make it PG and tell us now.
PG-13, it's TikTok.
A Britney aged kid, that's right. Not enough space. She's gonna send a blurb. Why don't you just Google a blurb and we can read it?
Oh, you want me to look it up?
Yeah, might as well, right?
Yeah. I'm coming to inform.
Probably, Naisa. It was a video that I think he found on Reddit.
Nope.
Never mind, it's the wrong show. Oh, she wasn't even thinking of the right
Nope,
show.
it was not. It was Twitter. Or X. Or Elon Musk's.
Yeah. Hey, Mina.
Uh,
Today is not a fun day. Why, Nikki? Why is today not a fun day?
This is gray out.
I mean, that's true. So for anyone who was looking for yesterday's chapter, what?
So when I searched for it on Google,
Yeah.
now Google just gives you like the first results, like an AI overview of whatever you asked for. So let's read the AI overview of what Google thinks this is.
Okay.
Smiling Friends is an adult swim series that follows the lives of Pim and Charlie, two pink and yellow employees of a small company called Smiling Friends who try to make people smile.
This tells us nothing.
The company's mission is to bring happiness to a colorful and bizarre world, and the employees take on seemingly simple requests, such as helping a woman's son smile. However, the jobs often turn out to be more complicated than they seem, and the client's problems can be deep-seated.
Oh.
I am never going to watch this show.
Oh.
It seems utterly uninteresting.
Yeah. But it's true. I am your smiling friend. Yes, you're right. So what I was saying about yesterday's chapter, if you were looking on YouTube for yesterday's chapter, okay, Becca, we'll be here. And it was only a 5-minute video. Naisa alerted me to that and I re-uploaded it this morning. I'm sorry, whatever downloaded from TikTok yesterday only downloaded as, that's really exciting, Becca. That's a bear.
Look how
He looks
cute
nice.
That's cute.
Yeah, he's very cute.
He would definitely tear us apart if he could, though.
Only if you provoked him.
That's not how bears work. It's definitely not how bears work, babe. It's a wild animal.
Is it a bear pope?
You're not allowed to go into the woods.
Is it a bear pope? Is it a bear pope?
It's not a bear pope.
Is it just a bear?
Well, we don't know. He's not wearing a hat, though. You're not allowed to go in the woods with me until you know about wild animals.
I don't want to go in the woods at all.
I've heard. I don't want to go in the woods.
Problem solved.
Problems.
I'm not going. Becca's still waiting for the show Bear Pope. Where's your treatment? Have you submitted it?
I have a a spec script.
And any bites?
I've shopped it. Yes.
Anyone? Who has bitten?
A lot of doors that have not opened to be closed.
All right, so we are reading A Tale of Magic. This book so far is frickin' nominal, as we have come to expect from the author Chris Coffer. Becca says chop chop lollipop. We are break the doors down. Babe, you gotta break the doors down. You gotta make your own way.
Well, yeah, you Kool-Aid Man in there, and suddenly they trank you, and then you wake up 4 hours later.
Only 4?
I don't know. I don't know what tranks do, to be honest.
I don't either.
4 seems like a long time to,
I guess,
to lose time after, breaking, especially into a movie industry person's office or TV. Like, they're degenerates, you don't want to be tranked by them.
No. Becca said at least you get a good nap.
No, I don't think so. Do you think that's like REM sleep when you get tranked?
I have no
Do you
idea.
think you wake up rested?
Probably not.
I don't know. Well, it's good.
You can Google it.
Yeah, if it works, I should just get some for the bedside table. Like, it's 1:30 a.m. Tracked myself.
Okay.
Those track marks? Nope, they're trank marks.
She said, listen, man, I have 4 kids. Any sleep is good sleep.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
Yeah,
that's
with
fair.
4 kids, that's... Yeah. Yes. 4 kids is a lot of
But
kids.
if you get tranked in the middle of the day with 4 kids, those kids are going to do God knows what to you. So...
Yeah, you know what? Not a good idea. Don't get tranked when you have 4 kids because, who knows what they'll do while you're out.
They're going to paint your face. They're going to
Oh, that's the least of your worries. The whole house will burn
They're
down.
going to burn down the house.
Yeah.
With you inside it.
Oy. She said, I don't have a script.
What?
Well, she doesn't have to worry about getting traced. She's not the one breaking down the door.
Oh, okay. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to read chapter 2 of A Tale of Magic. The prologue and chapter 1, hey B, are currently up on YouTube for anyone to catch up, and then today's will be up on YouTube later this afternoon so that you can catch up if you need to. But so far, so great. Here we go. Chapter 2, A Sign. That day at the Chariot Hills School for Future Wives and Mothers, Bristol learned the proper amount of tea to serve an unexpected visitor, the type of appetizers to cook for a formal gathering, and how to fold a napkin into the shape of a dove, among other riveting subjects. Towards the end of class, Bristol rolled her eyes so many times that her eye sockets were sore. Usually she was better at hiding her annoyance during school hours, but without the comfort of a good book waiting for her at home, it was much more difficult to conceal her irritation. To soothe her aggravation, Bristol thought about the last page she had read in the tale of Tidbit the Twitch, before falling asleep the night before. The story's hero, a field mouse named Tidbit, was hanging off a cliff while battling a ferocious dragon. His tiny claws were getting tired as he swung from ledge to dodge the monster's scorching breath. With his last bit of strength, he threw his small sword at the dragon, hoping it would wound the beast and give him a chance to climb to safety. Miss Evergreen? By some miracle, Tidbit's sword flew through the air and pierced the dragon's eye. The creature jerked its head toward the heavens and howled in pain, sending a fiery geyser through the night sky, and as Tidbit crawled down the side of the cliff, the dragon whipped its pointed tail and knocked the mouse off the boulder he clung to. Tidbit fell towards the rocky earth below, limbs flailing all around as he reached for something, anything to grab onto. Miss Evergreen! Bristol sat up straight in her seat like she had been pricked with an invisible pin. All her classmates turned toward her desk in the back row and stared at her with matching frowns. Their teacher, Mrs. Plume, glared at her from the front of the classroom with pursed lips and only one of her penciled eyebrows raised. Yes? Bristol asked with large, innocent eyes. Miss Evergreen, are you paying attention or are you daydreaming again? Mrs. Plume asked. I'm paying attention, of course, she lied. Then what is the appropriate way to handle the situation that I just described? The teacher challenged. Obviously, Bristol didn't have a clue what the class was discussing. The other girls giggled in anticipation of a good chastising. Fortunately, Bristol knew an answer that solved all of Mrs. Plume's questions, no matter what the topic was. Well, I suppose I would ask my future husband what I should do, she replied. Mrs. Plume stared at Bristol for a few moments without blinking. Yes, that's correct, the teacher was surprised to admit. Bristol sighed with relief as her classmates sighed with disappointment. They always looked forward to a moment when Bristol was reprimanded for her infamous daydreaming. Even Mrs. Plume seemed disappointed at the missed opportunity to scold her. The teacher would have slumped in her if her tight corset would have allowed it. Well, moving on, Mrs. Plume instructed, we'll now review the difference between tying hair ribbons and tying shoelaces and the dangers of mixing them up. The students cheered for their next lesson, and their enthusiasm made Bristol die a little inside. She knew she couldn't be the only girl at school who wanted more exciting life than what they were being prepared for, but as she watched her classmates strain their necks to see the ribbons and shoelaces, she couldn't tell if they were all phenomenal actors or just phenomenally brainwashed. Bristol knew better than to mention her dreams or frustrations to anyone, but she didn't have to say anything for people to know that she was different. Like wolves from an opposing pack, the whole school could practically smell it on her. And since the Southern Kingdom was a scary place for people who thought differently, Bristol's classmates kept their distance from her, as if difference was a contagious disease. Don't worry, one day they'll regret this, Bristol thought. One day they'll wish they were nicer to me. One day I'll be celebrated for my differences. One day they'll be the unhappy ones, not me. To avoid any more unwanted attention, Bristol remained as quiet and alert as possible until the end of class. The only time she moved a muscle was to lightly caress the reading glasses hidden within her dress. That afternoon, Bristol walked home from school at a slower pace than usual. With nothing but chores waiting for her, she decided to stroll through the Chariot Hills town square, hoping the change of scenery would take her mind off of her troubles.
The Champion Castle, the cathedral, the courthouse, the University of Law, each towered over the four sides of the town square. Busy shops and markets filled the corners and spaces with authoritative structures. In the center of town square was a grassy patch where a statue of King Champion I stood above a shallow fountain. The statue depicted the sovereign on horseback as he pointed a sword seemingly into a prosperous future. But the tribute received more attention from pigeons than from citizens wandering through town. Bummer for him.
Pigeons.
He's getting pooped on.
Oh, I know that game.
You've been pooped on by a pigeon?
No, even worse, by like seabird.
My eye is twitching. And I don't know why.
Come here.
What? She's gonna poke it out?
No. Whoa. Whoa. Too violent. Oh my
I'm
gosh.
kidding. He doesn't do anything like that.
Jeez.
What game? What game, Renee?
Getting pooped on by birds game.
Oh. They're all laughing, saying, I know that game. I was like, what game? I missed it. I'm sorry, you guys. The joke went right over my head. As Bristol walked past the University of Law, she gazed up at its stone walls and impressive glass domes with envy. At that very moment, she knew Barry was somewhere inside, agonizing over his examination. Bristol could have sworn that she felt her brother's anxiety radiating through the walls, but still, she would have given anything to trade places with him. She stopped to say a prayer for him before moving on. Bristol had no choice but to pass the courthouse as she continued through town square. It was an ominous building with pillars and triangular roof. Each pillar had the image of a high justice carved into it, and like the carvings scowled down at the citizens on the ground like disapproving parents, an expression Bristol knew well. She couldn't stop a wave of anger from flooding her stomach as she eyed the intimidating faces above her. Men like them, men like her father, were the reason that she had such little happiness. In a corner of town square, between the university and the courthouse, was the Chariot Hills Library. It was a small and modest structure compared to the buildings surrounding it, but to Bristol, the library could have been a palace. A black plaque with a red triangle was displayed above the double doors, a common symbol in the Southern Kingdom that reminded women that they weren't allowed to enter, but the law did nothing to diminish Bristol's desire to go inside. There's like something in my eye. Being so close to so many books and being forbidden to enjoy them gave Bristol a terrible feeling whenever she laid eyes on the library. But today, the sensation was unbearable. The helplessness she felt triggered an avalanche of emotion, and all the fear, doubt, and heartbreak that she had been suppressed and trampled over her like a stampede. The scenic route home was creating the opposite effect of what she had intended, and the town square suddenly felt like it was a cage closing in on her. Bristol was so overwhelmed that she could barely breathe, and she shooed a cluster of pigeons away from the Champion I statue and had a seat on the edge of the fountain to catch her breath. I can't do this anymore, she panted. I keep telling myself that things will get better, but they only get worse and worse. And if life is just a series of disappointments, then I wish I had never been born. I wish that I could turn into a cloud and float far, far away from here. Tears spilled down her face before she knew that they were coming. A few townspeople noticed the emotional scene and paused to gawk at her, but Bristol couldn't care less. She buried her face in the palms of her hand and wept in front of everyone. Please, God, I need more than just faith to keep going, she cried. I need proof that I'm not as foolish as I feel. I need a message that life won't always be so miserable, please. I need a sign. Ironically, after Bristol finished crying and had dried her tears, a sign was the first thing she saw. And an old, rickety librarian emerged from the library with a bright yellow board under his arm. With shaky hands, he pinned the board to the library's entrance. Bristol had never seen a sign posted outside the library before, and it was very curious. Once the librarian returned inside, she hurried over to the front steps and read the words painted across the board. Maid wanted. Suddenly, an idea came to Bristol that sent tingles through her entire body. Before she could second guess herself, and before she was even fully aware of what she was doing, Bristol pushed through the front doors and entered the Chariot Hills Library. Her first glimpse of the library was so overstimulating that it took a few moments for Bristol's mind to catch up with her eyes. In all her years, she had spent wondering what the library looked like inside, but she had never imagined it could be so magnificent. It was so enormously circular, with an emerald carpet, and the walls were covered in wooden paneling, and natural light flowed in from the glass ceiling. A massive silver globe stood in the center of the first floor, and dozens of law students were spread out at antique tables and armchairs around it. But most amazing of all, the library was surrounded by 3 stories of bookshelves that stretched into the upper floors like a multi-level maze. The sights and sounds of thousands and thousands of books made Bristol lightheaded, and she just stepped into a dream. She never knew so many books even existed in the whole world, let alone in her local library. Bristol spotted the elderly librarian standing behind the counter at the front of the room. Her impromptu plan would end in disaster if she didn't play her cards right. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath and wished herself luck as she approached him. "Excuse me, sir?" Bristol asked. The librarian was busy applying labels to a fresh stack of books and didn't notice her right away. Bristol instantly felt a spark of jealousy toward the old man. She could only imagine how many books he had touched and read over the years. "Excuse me, Mr. Woolsor?" she asked after reading the nameplate on the counter. The librarian squinted at her and reached for a pair of thick spectacles nearby. Once his glasses were on, the old man's jaw dropped. He pointed at Bristol like a wild animal was loose in the building. "Young lady, what are you doing in here?" Mr. Woolsor exclaimed. "Women aren't allowed in the library. Now get out of here before I call the authorities." "Actually, it's perfectly legal for me to be inside," Bristol explained, hoping her tranquil tone would help mellow his. "You see, according to the Hired Help Act of 417, women are allowed to enter male-only premises to seek employment. By posting the sign outside, you've given me the legal right to enter the building to apply for the position." Bristol knew the Hired Help Act of 417 only applied to women older than 20, but she was hoping the librarian wasn't familiar with the law as much as she was. Mr. Woolsor scrunched his face and eyebrows and watched her like a hawk. "You want to be a maid?" "Yes," Bristol said with a shrug. "It's honest work, is it not?" "But a girl your age should be busy learning how to curtsy and flirt with boys, no?" Mr. Woolsor asked. Bristol was compelled to argue, but she swallowed her pride and kept her eye on the prize. "To be honest, Mr. Woolsor," she said, "a boy is exactly why I want this position. You see, there's a deputy justice that I'm just smitten with. I desperately want him to propose to me one day, but I don't think he sees me as wife material. My family has servants, many, many servants, so he has no reason to believe I'm even capable of household chores. But when he finds out that I've been cleaning the library all by myself to perfection, I might add, he'll know that I will make him a better wife than all the other girls in town." Bristol even twirled her hair and blinked her eyes helplessly like a deer to sell the performance. "I sympathize, but you aren't a practical candidate for the position," the librarian said. "I can't have you in the library while the law students are studying. A young girl would be too much of a distraction for the young men." "Then perhaps I could clean in the evening after the library closes," Bristol suggested. "Most establishments have their maids clean after hours anyway. I could start as soon as you leave, and it would be spotless when you return in the morning." Mr. Woolsor crossed his arms and eyed her suspiciously. She was almost too convincing to be trusted. "This isn't some kind of scheme, is it?" he inquired. "You aren't applying for the job so you can be around books, are you?" Bristol felt her heart plunge into her gut. The librarian was seeing through her dishonesty as easily as her mother would. But instead of letting the panic surface on her face, Bristol laughed the idea off, trying to use his ignorance against him. "Mr. Woolsor, I'm a 14-year-old girl. What interest would I have in books?" According to the librarian's body language, reverse psychology certainly did the trick. Mr. Woolsor chuckled to himself as if it was foolish for thinking of that in the first place. Bristol knew she was close to persuading him. She just needed to offer him one more perk to sweeten the deal. "How much does this position pay, sir?" 6 gold coins a week, he said. The position is 5 days a week. Employees don't work weekends or the royal holidays, Kingsgiving, or Champions Eve. I'll tell you what, Mr. Woolsore, since you'll be doing me a favor, I'll do you a favor too. If you hire me to clean the library, I'll do it for 3 gold coins a week. Her offer was music to Mr. Woolsore's ears. He scratched his chin and nodded as it became more and more appealing to him. What's your name, young lady? He asked. Is Bristol Luckily, Bristol stopped herself before revealing her family name. If the librarian knew she was an Evergreen, her father might find out that she had applied for the job, and that was a risk she just couldn't take. So Bristol gave him the first name that came to mind. Her alias was Bourne. My name is Bailey. Bristol Eve Bailey. Well, all right then, Miss Bailey, Mr. Woolsore said. If you can start tomorrow evening, you're hired. Woo, that got me, I'm not gonna lie. Woo! It's okay. We're gonna be fine, you guys. We will get through this together. Bristol couldn't contain her excitement. Her whole body began to vibrate like she was being tickled from the inside out. She reached across the counter and vigorously shook the librarian's frail hand. Thank you, Mr. Woolsore. Thank you so much. I promise I won't let you down. And pardon my grip. I hope that didn't hurt, but I'll see you tomorrow. This book is a tale of magic. A tale of magic. Bristol practically floated out of the library and down the road to the eastern countryside. Her plan was more successful than she could have ever predicted. In just one day, she would have access to thousands and thousands of books, with no one in the library to supervise her. Bristol could easily sneak a few home each night after she finished cleaning. The prospect was exhilarating, and Bristol couldn't remember the last time she had felt so much happiness course through her veins. However, Bristol's euphoria came to a screeching halt as soon as the Evergreen house appeared on the horizon. For the first time, she realized just how impractical the situation was. There wasn't a feasible way that she could work evenings in the library without her family noticing her absence. She would need to give them a reason for why she was leaving the house at night and staying out so late. If she wanted to work the library, Bristol would have to create a spectacular lie that not only gained her family's approval, but also avoided any suspicion whatsoever. If she was caught, the consequences would be catastrophic. Bristol clenched her jaw as she thought about the daunting challenge ahead. Apparently, getting a job at the library was only her first impossible task of the day. Later that night, the Evergreen house was buzzing with celebration. A messenger had arrived from the University of Law with news that Barry had passed his examination with the highest marks in his class. Bristol and Mrs. Evergreen cooked up a feast to commemorate Barry's victory, including chocolate cake that Bristol made from scratch. By the time the Evergreens sat down to eat, Barry was already wearing his new deputy justice robes. How do I look? He asked everyone at the table. Like a child wearing a man's robes, Brooks quipped. No, you look perfect, Bristol said, like you were born for it. Bristol was so proud of her brother, but also unexpectedly grateful for an excuse to look so cheerful. Whenever she thought of her new job at the library, no one questioned the smile that beamed across her face. Everyone in her family shared the same excitement. Even Brooks's bitterness softened after a few glasses of sparkling cider. I can't believe my little boy is going to be a deputy justice, Mrs. Evergreen said through happy tears. It feels like only yesterday you were wearing my long shirts and sentencing your toys to hard labor in the backyard. My, how time flies. I am so proud of you, son, Justice Evergreen said. You're keeping the family legacy alive and well. Thank you, Father, Barry said. Do you have any advice for my first week at the courthouse? Well, you'll only be observing cases for your first month, but pay attention to every detail of the proceedings, the justice advised. After that, you'll be assigned your first prosecution. No matter what the charges are, you must recommend the maximum penalty. Otherwise, the sitting justices will think you're weak, and they'll likely side with the defense. Now, when you're assigned your first defense, the secret to... Justice Evergreen went quiet as his eyes fell on Bristol. He'd almost forgotten she was in the room. On second thought, perhaps we should continue this at a later time, he said. I would hate for our conversation to be absorbed by prying ears. The justice's comment made Bristol go tense, but not because her father's words offended her. After a long afternoon of plotting, Bristol was waiting for the perfect moment to secure her future at the library, and this might be her only chance. "Father, may I ask you something?" she asked. Oh, sorry, I read that wrong. "Father, may I say something?" she asked. Justice Evergreen grunted like it was a chore to give his daughter any attention. The other Evergreens looked back and forth at Bristol, and the Justice with nervous eyes, fearing dinner would end at the same note that breakfast had. "Yes, what is it?" the Justice asked. "Well, I've been thinking a lot about what you said this morning," Bristol began. "I don't want to be disrespectful to the law, so perhaps you were right when you suggested I eat meals elsewhere." "Oh?" her father said. "Yes, and I believe I have found the perfect solution," Bristol continued. "Today after school, I stopped by the Chariot Hills Home for the Hopeless. They're desperately understaffed, so with your blessing, I would like to start volunteering there in evenings after school." "You want to catch fleas at the poorhouse?" Brooks asked in disbelief. Mrs. Evergreen held out a hand to silence her eldest son. "Thank you, Brooks, but your father and I will handle this," she said. "Bristol, it's very kind that you want to help the less fortunate, but I need your help in this house. I cannot manage all the chores and cooking dinner on my own." Bristol lowered her head and looked at her hands so that Mrs. Evergreen wouldn't detect any dishonesty in her eyes. "But I'm not abandoning you, Mother," she explained. "After school, I'll come home and I'll help you cook and I'll clean just like always. And then when it's time for dinner, I'll slip away for just a few hours to volunteer at the Home for the Helpless. At night, I'll return home and do the dishes before bed just like always. I may lose an hour or two of sleep, but it shouldn't affect anything else." The dining room went quiet as Justice Evergreen considered his daughter's request. Bristol felt like an invisible weight was tied around her stomach. With every passing moment, it became heavier and heavier. 30 seconds it took to get an answer seemed like hours. "I agree that a change is needed to prevent other incidents like the one this morning," her father said. "You may volunteer evenings at the Home for the Hopeless, but only if it doesn't create extra work for your mother." Justice Evergreen banged the table with his fork like it was a gavel, cementing his final ruling of the day. Bristol couldn't believe that she had pulled it off. Oh yeah. Working at the library was now a reality. The weight around her stomach was suddenly released, and Bristol knew that she had to get out of her family's sight before she started bouncing off the walls. "Oh, thank you so much, Father," she said. "Now, if you'll excuse me, I'll give you and Barry some privacy so that you can speak freely about the courthouse, and I'll come back to clear the table when you've finished dessert." Bristol was excused from the dinner table and hurried upstairs to her bedroom. Once the door was closed behind her, Bristol danced around her room as energetically as she could without making a sound. She twirled past her mirror, and Bristol saw something that she hadn't seen since she was a small child. Instead of a depressed and defeated girl in a silly school uniform, she was facing a happy and vibrant young woman with hope in her eyes and rosy cheeks. It was like she was looking at a different person altogether. "You're a bad girl, Bristol Eve Bailey," she whispered to her reflection. "A very bad girl." Dun dun dun! Alright, so we don't know 100% that she is the fairy godmother, but it seems logical given the last name. Seems like it. We don't know for sure, but, because we didn't know the fairy godmother's first name, so we don't really know. But, it could be the fairy godmother's mother. It could be a sister. Amazing, Becca. Perfect. All right, so I'm going to hit the road, get my work done for the day. I got a lot to do today, so I'm going to go. See y'all on the flip side. This will be uploaded after it processes, so anyone who missed it can, or missed any of it, can catch up. And that's pretty much all. Hit the road, Jack, and don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Okay, bye.